Hello my crafty friends, it's Donna here. I'm back from a burst of Japanese study and playing oboe in concerts, and I've finally had the time and space to sit down in my craft room and create and to make a video, and here I am doing the voiceover. So perhaps life's getting back to normal a little. Today's card features a stamp called Brooke's Bouquet from Paper Rose Studios, and I'm going to stamp that twice. I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink because I'm going to colour the image with my Copic Markers. Once I've stamped the image, I'm going to make a mask. I've put a little bit of plastic into my stamping tool that I can stick the mask to, and I'm using post-it tape. You could use post-it notes for this as well. I'm just using the leftover Memento ink from my stamp to make this mask. However, it's probably not what I'd advise unless you're planning to use a grey ink like I did, because this ink was perfect for the Copic colouring, but it did smudge a little on the mask. Next I'm going to cut out the mask, and one of the advantages of doing this, rather than stamping the image and cutting it out, is that I don't need to mask every single part of the image. And I don't need to have all of the parts of the image connected. So for example, this little flower here, it has a thin stem, so I don't need to worry about masking the stem. So I've just cut the flower off and I'm cutting that separately. I'll do that also for a couple of leaves and one of the berries, and then I'll put down the rest of the mask in one piece. The other thing about cutting a mask is that you can cut off any bits that you don't need to mask. So some of the little berries I cut off entirely, but also you can cut into it. So for example here, where I have a little bit of background in the middle, I can just slice the image apart, cut out the piece I need, and then put it back together again when I stick it down on the page. You don't need to be too precious about the mask. Next, I'm going to stamp this text background stamp across the whole image. I tried this 2 different ways. I thought initially that I would like a second generation stamping, and I tried this on some scrap paper and it worked beautifully. But when I went to do it on the card, you can actually see the remains of that attempt there. It was just too light. So this time, rather than inking the stamp up heavily, I've just run the stamp pad gently across the stamp, not pressing too hard and not getting things too even. I don't want the background text to be particularly legible. I want it to just sit in the background. The ink that I've used is called Misty Morning from Altenew, and I've got it as part of a little set of 4 mini ink cubes. I then used the same Misty Morning ink to blend off the edges of the mask to give a little bit of a shadow around my image. I'm not sure exactly what I did with the footage, but whatever happened to it, there's no doubt it was my fault. I'm going to keep that mask in with the stamp and I can use it again. As far as the colouring goes, I'm going to use the lines on the image as cues for where to put my darker colours. I'll start with darker colours in the centres, but I'll also use those small fold lines that are marked onto the petals to give me an idea of where to put a little bit of darker shade. While you're having a look at a little bit of the colouring, I thought we might have a chat. It's been a busy month for me. Those who are new to the channel may not know, but I live in Japan, and I've been studying Japanese fairly hard for the time that we've been here, and that culminated in me sitting a language proficiency exam last month. And I have no idea how I went. I can't even remember the exam. It was so frantic while it was on. But the study has stayed with me, and I'm now able to do things in Japanese that I wasn't able to do before, and I'm really enjoying being able to read novels and understand even the junk mail that comes to the door. So that's been a big adventure that's been happening slowly over the last couple of years. It's the last exam you can do, so if I've passed this one, there simply aren't any more. I need to wait another month to find out how I went. The other big thing that's been happening is that my husband and I are getting ready to move back to Australia. And so, in amongst all of the study and the end of year excitement, we're also trying to think about what we need to pack and how we're going to get our belongings back, and also organise getting a house set up for when we arrive in Australia. We're also trying to cram as much as we can into our last few weeks here before we head back. All in all, it's keeping me very, very busy. My life here in an apartment in Tokyo and my life living in rural Australia are so different. It's almost hard to imagine what things are going to be like when I get back. Also, if anybody has tips for packing up a craft room and moving countries, that would be much appreciated. I've coloured most of this image with Copic markers, but some of the little pieces were so tiny that I decided to use a sharp coloured pencil for those. As well as that, I've used some white gel pen to add a few highlights to the centres of the flowers, and also a little highlight on those berries. I decided to repeat the yellow in this flower here, although I think that it's probably a purple flower in real life. And I just used different shades for the different little petals. But in the end, I'm wondering if it looks a little bit like a corn cob. Those of you who've been around for a long time know that my son composes the music for this channel, and I have exciting news on the music front. We have some new music. I haven't included it for this video because I think this jazz waltz is just perfect for colouring flowers too. But you can expect the new music very soon. I'm just adding those gel highlights. Gel pens are so different to regular ballpoint pens. I find that I need to move the pen slowly and press lightly, and I use the side of my thumb just to get the ink rolling again. Let's put this card together. I folded back the double-sided tape on 2 corners, and now I'm going to hold the card by the opposite 2 corners and wiggle it around to get it in position. Once it's in position, I'm going to press down the open corners and peel out the rest of the tape. I've decided to do a couple of layers for my sentiment this time around. The main sentiment comes from a pack of sentiments that you've seen me use so many times now. It's called Rainbow Poppies. And I've just layered that up with a little bit of vellum and also a pink scrap of paper, both of which I've torn by hand and torn and torn and torn until I was happy with the shape. Finally, I've added a couple of enamel dots. These are from a set called Rainbows by Pink and Main. And I've just tried to find the flow of the stamp and follow that through with the dots so that they come off the bottom left and the top right. I hope that you've enjoyed this card. I hope that you're having a wonderful December, and I look forward to seeing you again. By the time you see me again, I will be pretty much on the plane to Australia. So stay safe, have a wonderful holiday season, and I will catch up with you soon. Bye for now.